Hi there, this is Elise Bennin, your marketing mentor. And this is the podcast for you if and only if you are ready to leave the feast or famine syndrome behind, and I mean for good. Have you ever heard about or been on the treadmill of success? Some call it a hamster wheel. It's a real thing, and it's been coming up in my coaching groups lately. You see, the marketing is working, and now they feel like all they're doing is getting a client, doing the work, getting another client, doing another project, etc. It's a good problem to have, no doubt, especially right now, but they want to know, will this treadmill ever end? That question stuck in my craw, and I've been thinking a lot about it. Why does it feel like a hamster wheel, and what are the alternatives? So, because, as I like to say, I thrive in response, which means that my best thinking strategy is to talk to smart people, I recruited my good friend, Ben Callahan, to tackle this question with me because we both love questions. Anyway, listen and learn. So we all know that marketing works when you do it right, and when you have the right attitude. And many of my, what I think of as advanced clients are doing it and doing it right, and it's working, but they're still not happy. And why not? That's my question today. Some of them are saying, is this all there is? Get a project, do it, get another project, do it, get another project, do it. Where's the reward? They want to know. They're not sure they want more work because they aren't really enjoying it and they don't know what to do. So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm calling it the treadmill of success. And today we have our returning champion, Ben Callahan, with us to tackle this issue. So Ben, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, Elise. It's good to talk to you again.
Thank you. And I think you're the perfect person to discuss this with. So I'm going to ask you a question, but I want you to introduce yourself first. I know you can handle that. The question is, have you been on this treadmill of success? And if so, what did you do? And if not, maybe why not?
Okay, let me give this a shot. So my name is Ben. I am the founder of a company called Sparkbox. We're a digital studio, so we help organizations with digital products. And then I also have a consultancy called Learning Mode. And through Learning Mode, I do a program called The Question, which is like a mini research project that I do every other week, collaborative learning with the larger design system community. And then I also have a community called Redwoods, which is where folks who are on internal design system teams can really come to grow and support each other. I do some coaching on the side for careers and design systems or in the digital world. And I do a little bit of consulting, but mostly just a lot of community work, a lot of thinking, writing, researching. I'm a curious guy.
And actually, let me just, before you answer the question, frame it based on what you just said, because a lot of what you just described is two things. One, the measure of your success, because you've been at this a while and it keeps evolving and changing and you keep following it. And a lot of it is marketing, your content marketing and the way that you interact. So part of your networking also. So I just want to kind of plant the seeds that it's not obvious, but the simplest marketing plan is at work in your business. And I think it has brought you success. So have you been on this treadmill of success? And if so, or why not? Just start there.
Yeah, you're totally right. Elise, you and I met a long time ago at an event. And also I think we were, at least in our early days, we were one of your clients. And so you came and helped us write a little marketing plan and kind of pushed us out of our comfort zone in a lot of ways. So I learned a lot from you, and I still do each time we talk. So thanks for sharing your wisdom with me.
Ditto.
Yeah. So the question about the treadmill is interesting. I'm trying to figure, I've been thinking about this for a while because we kind of, tossed this idea around as a potential topic and it's sort of like stuck with me,
Mm.
I, I do feel like there have been seasons of my life where I'm a little bit stuck on a treadmill. But I think, at least at this moment, the way that I feel, the way I would describe it is that I'm more like I'm still running, but I'm kind of jogging through, the world, right? It's not like the interesting thing about a treadmill is you're in one place
Mhm.
and you're seeing the same things over and over and over, right? And you may run 5 miles, but your scenery doesn't change.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think I am running, right? There's still work involved, but the scenery's changing. I'm trying new things. I'm learning. I'm experimenting, making new connections. And I think for me, at least, I'm not afraid of the work. But I don't like to see the same scenery every day.
Hmm.
if that makes the analogy work, does that make
Totally.
sense? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, my thought was you're running, but you're in reality, not on a treadmill.
Yeah. That's a good
And
way to
that
say it.
that affects everything about it, I would think.
Yeah. I think it's like when you're running on a treadmill, if we just stick with the analogy for a little bit,
Let's.
right? Like you're getting the benefit of the workout, but I've never been the kind of person, even in my own sort of home physical life, like, staying healthy physically, I don't like to run on a treadmill for the exact same reason. I would much rather go play a sport. I would much rather take a walk through the neighborhood. I want to have a secondary benefit. And so maybe my sort of personal, curiosity, or my desire to learn and grow is sort of what pushed me towards the path I'm on now, and it's what keeps me interested in that path, I think.
So there isn't this, the thing that seems to be the problem with the treadmill for so many people is it's just the same old, and it never ends. And where is the reward? And so maybe that's another interesting question for you as you keep jogging or running. In reality, where is the reward?
Yeah. I would say one of my core values is I want to make an impact. Like I want the things that I do to matter. And so I think I see that most in my one-on-one conversations with people. And so I guess maybe that is a good observation, at least, that like if for me at least, if I am able to find ways to make an impact, then the running on the treadmill doesn't bother me. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the big thing for me. So that would be connecting. That would be the coaching that I do. That would be the community I run. That would be meeting new folks who come to the question and like are just discovering this amazing community of systems people who are out there trying to help each other. And I love being a part of those connections.
And so one of the ideas about this treadmill is that it depends on what kind of person you are. And
Mm,
perhaps the people who are feeling this way are focused on the projects. And I was trying to come up with a distinction between like project people versus people, or you suggested craft people versus people.
yeah.
And you are clearly a people person.
Yeah. Yeah, for
A
sure.
people person. I have to say, my dog is also a people dog.
Yes. Yes.
So you would get along well with Fanny.
Can't wait.
But that if your focus is on the work itself and how exciting the work is or interesting the work is, but it's just work after work after work, then maybe you have one experience versus if you really love the relational aspect and the connecting, as you're saying, and then every time you do even the same exact same project, it would be perhaps with different people, or if we really think about it, everyone is constantly changing, so even if it's the same person, they're a different person the
Yeah.
next day and the next project and the next year. So does that make sense, do you
Yeah,
think?
I think so. I mean, this is so tricky. It's like there's probably a lot more nuance, in it.
Mm.
I was like in my coaching practice, a lot of what I do early on with folks is just help them figure out what they value. And the reason is because in your career, if you're not in an organization, or for whoever you work for, even if it's for yourself, if the things that you do or the way that you do them doesn't allow you to live in your values, it's actually nearly impossible in my mind to be happy doing those things,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there are folks who, if you can articulate those values and you can find a career that allows you to kind of live in those, then I think even if it does feel very repetitive, if it does feel very treadmill, you can still be happy in that. I do think it's hard, right? That's not easy. It's hard to find an organization that allows you to live in your values fully. That's not an easy thing to do.
But I do think, as a self-employed person, and that's who I'm talking about, and that's who I would think is listening.
Yeah.
That's one of the main benefits. That's one of the main reasons to be self-employed. And you are self-employed also. So don't you agree with that?
Yeah, but I think it's easy to be self-employed and not actually base the business on your values.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's easy to say, I need to put food on the table, and whoever will give me money, I will do the thing they need me to do because I need the money, like that's how every business starts in some sense,
Definitely at the beginning, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't mature through that into a place where you're willing to, or able to, maybe it's not about will, but you're able to, live out those things more fully, I think then that's when, and maybe that's where we hit the treadmill feeling, Does that make sense or not?
Yes, yes. But I'm thinking also, willing or able. That's where I kind of got snagged a little bit and I think there's a communication issue here. And of course, marketing, because marketing is how you go get, as I have been talking about it for so long, better clients with bigger budgets, or better clients with better boundaries. I was thinking earlier today,
I like that.
Better clients with better values, even, we could say, right? But you have to keep shedding the old clients, because inevitably you are growing and you need better clients no matter what. And so go ahead. I heard you take a breath. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I love what you're saying, because I do think this does become a marketing thing. And this is where, if you go to my website right now, I'm not trying to send people there, but I realized this about myself about 6 months ago. I thought, oh, you know what? I was telling somebody I lead with my values in my own communications, and I think I do in a lot of the cases, but I went to my website and it was just all the things I do. And so I changed it quickly, and I just added a statement to the very top, which is, I believe every interaction is an opportunity to learn. And that is just straight up, that's who I am. That's literally what I want. Every conversation that I have, even when I'm coaching somebody, they're paying me to coach them. I still see that as an opportunity to grow and learn. And so that, I think, for me is that's a very, very simple example. But if every piece of communication, every piece of marketing, every piece of content that you write is just dripping with your own values, two things are going to happen. One, people who don't believe those things are going to be like, I want nothing to do with this person, right? And people who do believe those things, people who share those values, are going to be very attracted to you. And so that, in my mind, is what I have always tried to do with Sparkbox, my digital studio, and with my own, more personal work. That's what I've always tried to do.
Yes. And so now, for some reason, I'm thinking about, what does it take? Because I like to give baby steps to listeners. And so if, let's say, one was self-employed or wanted to be self-employed and wanted to lead with their values, or maybe they've been self-employed and realize they're not leading with their values and they want better clients with better budgets, boundaries, values, everything, then let's maybe identify some steps they need to take. And I've got two in mind, and then I'd love you to comment and then add, because it seems like, number one, you have to be able to say no to things that don't fit your values, number one, and or the people, they're red flags. And it's really hard to say no to work, especially at a time like now when people are struggling. So then I think, so there's a communication issue, but there's also a way we use our time. And those two things are connected because if you can say no to a project that doesn't fit, then you can use that time ostensibly to do the marketing that will get you in front of potentially the people who are a better fit for you. And even if you don't say no, when things are slow, which for a lot of people they have been this year, then that's a perfect time to just make that shift, whatever that means to you. So, what would you say to those two ideas?
I definitely think those are hugely important. I think there's one that has to happen before,
Mm.
which is that you actually have to do the work to know what your values are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so surprised at how many folks don't think about that, you know.
Tell us more what it means.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like when you start a business, it's often part of, you feel like it's a part of the job. This is the thing I have to go do. I need a mission, a vision, that kind of stuff. And so you sit down and you think about the future, right? Well, that's not values. Values are the phrase I like. I don't know who said this first, but the phrase that I like is that values are actual, not aspirational.
Mm.
In other words, like we're not trying to define who we want to be. We're defining who we actually are.
Mm.
And that's a hugely different thing, right? Because everybody, I'm an optimist, so I believe everybody's on the path of growth in some capacity, right? Everybody's trying to get better in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, of course, there are things about ourselves that we want to grow and change. But what we want is like right now in this moment, who am I? And that is sort of like the things that you've had. The way I do this is about once a year, maybe every other year, I spend some time just kind of thinking through the big decisions that I've made over the last year or two.
Mm.
And if you do that, you can kind of identify like, okay, I made this choice, I left this position, or I said no to that client, or whatever it was, I decided I needed to take this trip. And you can kind of then dissect that decision a little bit and try to understand like what were the real motivators for that. And that's the process that I use to help me identify who I actually am. It's kind of like where the rubber meets the road is action.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say all the things you want. If you ask people their values, it can be honesty and,
Right.
Loyalty and all those things. But
Right.
it's like, okay, show me the decisions
Show
you've
me.
made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that back that up. So that's the way that I tend to think about it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I mean, we could definitely do a whole conversation, a whole
I
episode
know.
about values, and maybe we should. But I want to come back to the treadmill because I have one more way I'm thinking about it, which is sometimes the treadmill is a result of doing the same thing over and over. And you said to me the other day, your space is evolving rapidly. And so that kind of makes it impossible to do the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear you just talk a little bit about that, identify what space you're talking about. But also, I kind of feel like, well, everyone's space is evolving pretty rapidly these days. And so if someone is not seeing that, that may be part of the problem.
Yeah. I do think that I think your assessment that everybody's, sort of space, the place where they live and work, not their physical space, but like the market that they operate in. Everybody's space is evolving rapidly, and it's like I don't remember. I read some article about how the rate of change in the world in every aspect is just like hockey sticking, like technology, all of it. And, you throw AI into the mix and all of a sudden, like everybody's, work is changing and our perspective on the work is changing. And so, yeah, I think it's in one sense, it's hard to do the same thing for different clients day after day after day, because the clients feel like they need something new, and so you have to kind of be bringing a modern mindset, to all of the work. But under the covers, it is true. I think that like the core thing we deliver is still the same. Like if you're talking about the results, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're helping people with their marketing, the end result is, like you said, better clients, right? Bigger
Mm-hmm.
clients, whatever it is they need there.
Mm-hmm.
So like the way you do it may be very different now than it was 5 years ago, but the end result is the same. So I guess, in one sense, it's changing rapidly. In another sense, it's the same old thing. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, no, I love
Do you
contradictions.
feel like you're on the treadmill, Elise? You didn't answer.
No,
No?
ever. I've never felt like I've been on a treadmill. And that was kind of why I was so surprised when several of my clients started talking about it, because I feel like, well, how come I'm not? And what is it about me and what I do? And then you and what you do, as we started talking about it, like, what is it that prevents someone from being on a treadmill? Maybe it's just a perspective. I don't see my work as a treadmill. I mean, I think part of it is this just constant experimentation. And that is made possible when one space is evolving rapidly, also because your alternative is just to be paralyzed. And I don't
Yeah.
like that. So I don't know. I'm just always looking for what's new and what's changing and how do I need to evolve everything, including, as I was telling you earlier, the simplest marketing program is going to change for next year because that's what the market needs. And so
Yeah.
again, I feel like it's goes back to marketing, because if you're listening to the market, then I don't think the market will let you be on a treadmill because it will keep asking you for something different.
That's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. It's more of a response. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so in that sense, the curiosity or the ability to listen, to see what's happening around you is the thing that keeps you from feeling like you're on a treadmill, because you're responding to the changes in the world.
And maybe also you're making me think that I just love change and I love to
Mm,
change. And we know a lot of people dislike change and resist change. I don't find it scary at all. I find it invigorating. And so, like, even when someone cancels something, like, okay, that just opens everything up. I could do
yeah.
anything now. So I don't know. Do you feel that way too? Do you love change as much as I do?
That's funny. I think there's like maybe areas in my life where I love it. And
Mm.
there's areas where I'm more a creature of habit,
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but I'm also thinking about the person who, like you said, a few of your clients have come to you and said, listen, I feel like I'm on a treadmill. It's working, but I just am tired of doing the same things over and over again. And maybe there's something there that's like an internal sign to someone saying like, hey, there's more to it than this.
Mhm.
I think maybe that's part of what I feel in those moments. It's like that feeling of the treadmill is almost like a signal to me that
Mm.
there's something else I'm missing. Like, open your eyes, Ben, go find the next thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's, yeah,
Mhm.
I don't
I
know.
like that. It reminds me of, I'll just plug one of my favorite podcasts, the Rework podcast with Jason Fried and his partner David Hensel Hennemeyer, I think is his name. They were talking about procrastination, and Jason said, well, to me, procrastination is a signal, basically, that what I feel I'm supposed to do, I don't really want to do. So I should look at that.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's really smart.
Right?
I mean, that's true. If you're sort of subconsciously putting a thing off, it's like, what's going on? Like, physically,
Exactly.
you feel that in your body. I have that sometimes, it's like, I know how to do this. I just need to put the time in to do it. I'm not a lazy person.
Right.
It's, yeah. Oof, so much going on here. We need like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or someone to come help us figure this out, at least.
That's right. All right. Let me ask you one more question. And then I'm going to ask you for a baby step that people can take to move in whatever direction we're talking about here. But you did mention AI. And lately I have been asking everyone about how they see AI coming into their work, maybe their personal work, maybe their life. I don't think you answered the question about what space you consider your space. So
Mm,
maybe like connect those two things. What is the space and how is AI permeating it, if at
yeah.
all?
Yeah, my space right now is a pretty niche part of digital product design and development. So if you imagine the space is design systems, and if you imagine the large organizations that have many digital products like websites and native applications on their phones or tablet applications, they have many teams oftentimes internally that are designing and developing all of this software. And unfortunately, it's hard to create a lot of alignment across all of those teams. But from their customer's perspective, right, I may sign into my bank's website on my desktop or my laptop computer. I may sign in on a native application that they give me. I may do something through a little kiosk, all of those are digital touch points that for me as a user, they're the same thing, right? I just want to move my money around or make a transaction. For them, it's very different people on different teams, And so what I do is I specialize in working with those kinds of large organizations to help them see that there's a lot of opportunity for efficiency and cohesion in that work. And so what that means is we identify the common patterns across those products and we build those things really well once. And then we enable those teams to have a consistent set of pieces and parts from which they can build. Mm-hmm. So that's a design system. So that's my space. And the way AI is impacting this, it's kind of everywhere. The most interesting one is that there's a lot of talk about digital product teams using AI to help them build their products. And in that way, what you need to do is give that large language model or that artificial intelligence agent enough context that they know how to build things that align with the sort of brand and guidelines of that organization. Mm. And luckily, the design system teams that I work with all do a ton of work in the area of documentation, right? They write, here's how to use all of these pieces and parts, the components of a system. And that natural language documentation that a human can read and understand is also valuable for an AI to read and understand. Mm-hmm. And so in a sense, the design system is the input, the context for AI, if you want your organization to start building products with AI. So I think we're in an interesting time because we're trying to figure out how do we, serve both human users who will take the pieces and parts we have and build new products with them, and how do we serve robots, who may also be taking those same pieces and parts and trying to build prototypes or quickly, make progress on the product. So it's weird times for sure.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like, are you afraid you're going to be replaced by the AI?
No, I'm not. I have, if we talked really long term, I have some interesting ideas about sort of the combination of humans and AI that I think are probably more realistic than one or the other, sort of being fully replaced. I did some research into this with the design system community that I'm a part of. And in the design world, there's this concept of the double diamond, the design sort of thinking process where you have sort of a first diamond is where you're defining the problem, and the second diamond is where you're in the solution space, And the first half of that first diamond it's like a divergent path. We're trying to expand our idea of what the problem may be. And then we have a convergent path, the back half of that first diamond. And that's when we clearly articulate the problem. We go wide and then we come back to narrow. And now we have a clearly defined problem. And then from there, we do the same with the solutions. We expand out. That's the divergent part of the solution space where we're expanding all our ideas of how we could solve the problem. And then once we've done that, we can look through those and converge on a good solution. So that concept of diverge, converge, that's the double diamond. And I've started to learn and see that AI is really, really helpful in the diverging stage, right? Like expand my ideas, challenge me, give me new perspectives, go out and help me research these things, find what competitors are doing. I want to expand my perspective. But when it comes to converging, like defining the actual problem, it's not quite as helpful. And so I think that's at least what I'm starting to see in my work in the design space.
Fascinating. Thank you. I learned a lot so far today. So if people want to get off this treadmill of success, Do you have a thought about a baby step they might take?
I mean, I think I am leaning into that idea of values, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the first step would be do the work to actually understand what you value. And if, like, again, to the idea of the signal, right? If you're feeling that you're on the treadmill, that's probably a sign that, you know, you're just, that's a lack of contentment, maybe, you
Yeah.
know? And so for you to be content, I think you have to know who you are and what you value. So that's where I would probably recommend people start.
Yeah. And I love the idea of not, just pontificating, if you will, or cogitating on the question as much as looking at the actions and decisions of the past year and
That's
see
right.
what does that say about
Yeah.
your values. That's
Yeah.
much more realistic, I think.
Yeah. And everybody has made decisions in the last year. So,
Yeah.
you know, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a big fancy thing, but you need to set aside a couple hours, you know,
Mhm.
in the morning or in the afternoon and just make space for that.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's definitely send people to your website. So, what is it?
It's just bencallahan.com.
Beautiful. That's that's it. Fancy. That's simple. We love simple. All
Yes.
right, Ben. Thank you so much. I'm sure there's a lot more we're going to talk about this and other things in the future. But I thank you, as usual, for being my collaboration partner and learning partner. And yeah, we'll see you again soon.
Yeah. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It all starts with the question, what do you value? That's the baby step Ben suggested. But don't answer by cogitating about it, because we can tell ourselves anything we want, and it's not always the truth. Instead, take a look at a few of the decisions you've made in the last year. Why did you do what you did? And what value or values are underneath it? That way, your values are more actual than aspirational. And if you want my help figuring all of this out, I hope you'll take advantage of my free mentoring session. You can find that and lots more resources, including my simplest marketing plan at marketing-mentor.com. So enjoy, and I'll see you next time.